Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Empowering the Artist Within. This is the space for creativity, self-expression, and personal growth. With me, Liz Ross, your host, and I'm here to inspire and uplift you through meaningful conversations and powerful affirmations. And it's actually a really interesting one because I love to uplift and inspire you, and that is what my podcast is all about. And if you're new here, then there's lots of lovely episodes that you can check out already. I love to give you affirmations, positive affirmations, and do those in a really nice, calm, kind of uplifting and positive podcast episode all on its own. And I'm going to have a bonus one of those for you coming up, hopefully later on this week, because I really feel like we need to lean into that kind of warmth and gentleness as we get fully into autumn. And I want to do a bit of a catch-up episode today because I have been away from the podcast for a few weeks and I was thinking about doing the affirmations at the end. I thought it would actually be nicer for it to be a separate episode for you so that you can just go straight to them and you don't have to try and find them within an episode where I'm chatting away. But there's quite a lot to talk about and reflect on. So I thought it'd be really nice to do like a catch-up episode today and chat to you. And yeah, so the podcast is all about being uplifted and me trying to kind of inspire you through my own kind of actions, taking courage and being a little bit courageous and brave and trying new things and sharing those with you. But I also think that it's really important that I share the times where things are harder or they don't quite go to plan, or maybe I don't get accepted for things, or my artwork isn't doing so great, or I'm not happy with it. And although it's a really positive podcast and the words uplift and inspire feel really positive, actually, when we think about sharing the downs and the things that don't go so well, even though that's kind of a bit more negative and it's not so great and it's not so positive and happy, that I don't think means that it's not uplifting or inspiring, because actually I think that can be really, really helpful. I think that it can be inspiring to hear from people when things maybe aren't going so well, or they, let's say, for example, they do an art fair and they don't break even, so they've not sold enough to even cover their costs. Whilst it can be really hard for that person that is sharing that with us, it's actually really inspiring because it helps us to realize that that is the norm. And when we're looking at Instagram and we're seeing everyone's highlights, and I know there are people that try and share like I do every kind of part, but it's not always that easy because, you know, we do want to share the good stuff. And even though with the best will in the world, we want to share the other stuff as well, sometimes it just isn't possible. Or maybe we're in a position where, like I have been for the last few weeks, where I've not been well and social media is the thing that's had to go. And so rather than you seeing what's going on for me when it's been like a bit of a harder time, actually, it's just kind of like, well, I'm just not really there. And then when I come back, I'm back with a new episode and I'm back fresh and I've got all this energy and I can share with you again. So it's not always within our control to share all the parts of our business and our lives and what's going on for us in our artistic business. But I think it is really important, and I think it can be really uplifting, because even though it's not necessarily what we want to hear, I just think it helps to hear from people who are on a similar path, to know that we're not alone, that it is part of the normal kind of everyday life of an artist. And there are so many things that we are juggling that often it can be tricky, it can be hard, there can be things that don't quite go the way maybe we wanted them to or we expected them to. And when we share those things, I think that can be really helpful. So the episode today is probably a little bit more like that. It might not be as energetically upbeat as my episodes usually would be, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to be a useful episode for you, because I think that sharing these things, like I said, can be really helpful. So before I get into the episode, I'm going to be talking about the last few weeks where I've not been on the podcast. I'm going to be talking about my artwork and where I'm up to with that. And I'm going to be talking about an open call that I've recently submitted to and what happened with that. So all of those things are things that I'm going to cover. But before I get started, I'm really, really keen to ask you to help me out with something. I am trying really hard to boost my YouTube. I went live the last 2 days over the weekend. So recording this now, we've just moved into November. So it's November 2025. So at the weekend, I decided completely randomly and exactly as you would expect from me and from this podcast to go live on YouTube just like that for no reason at all, other than I just decided it was something I wanted to do. And I decided to do it because I want to boost my YouTube channel. I want to get more views. I want to reach more people, and I would love to have more subscribers. So if you don't subscribe to me already, please go and check out my channel. It's at Art by Liz Ross. And there's lots of lovely videos on there. And the 2 lives that I did over the weekend are on there, so you can go and check them out. Please subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything at all. If you want to be notified when a new video or when I'm doing a new live, then you can click the bell icon and it will notify you. But if you don't want to receive notifications, you can still subscribe. And if you don't click that bell, then you won't get the notifications. So it's completely free for you, but it just helps boost my channel. And it's a little bit different, I feel, to using kind of like Instagram or Facebook, TikTok, any of the other social media channels, because I feel that when people are on YouTube, they are spending a little bit longer. They're really invested in your content. And obviously some of it is longer form, and I put the podcast episodes on there. So this will be on there if you want to see me rather than just listen, then you're welcome to go over and watch those. There are a few on there. I'm slowly trying to get more episodes on there because I think it's really nice, especially the interview ones, to watch them rather than just listen. It can be quite nice if you have got the time, or maybe if you're doing something in the studio and you can kind of watch whilst you're doing it. So the reason that I want to boost my subscribers is because it just really helps reach more people and for my channel to grow, which is obviously what I really would like. So I'd love for you to go over and follow me over there if you don't already. I'll pop a link in the show notes, but it is Art by Liz Ross. And there's also this new thing like nudge or something, I think it's called, when you're watching a video. There's something that you can do that you can press it. I'll pop it in my notes to tell you what it is, but it's like this new thing on YouTube to help small channels grow. It begins with an M. It's like nudge, or I've probably got it completely wrong. And you can press that, and that tells YouTube that you think this content's good, that you like it, and then they will send it out to a percentage of people, of channels, subscribers, probably, for them to watch it. And then if they also press this thing, then it will get sent out to more and more people. And it doesn't matter how many subscribers you've got. That's the point of it. That's what they're trying to do. So it's really interesting. And hopefully that will help small channels like us to really be able to get even further with our channels. So yeah, it's annoying that I can't remember what it's called, but anyway, I don't want to keep going on about it. So yeah, so completely in my style, I just decided to randomly say, I'm going to go live. I was like really enjoying doing my Procreate, and I wanted to kind of just do it live and just show you what I was doing. And I was going to do it in my Procreate Facebook group, but really nobody sees those at all. And it kind of can feel quite deflating to do that. And then it's really hard to download that and then obviously I've got to go into YouTube and put it on. So I just thought this way, it's just straight into YouTube, and then all I have to do is change it from private to public to put it on my channel. So that seems a much better way of doing it than going into a Facebook group with like 50 people, or I don't even know if there's 50 people in them, and no one seeing it at all. So yeah, So I just wanted to chat to you quickly about that. How did I kind of get the courage to just go live? Because it's not easy, and I don't want you to think that I just did it because I find that stuff easy, because if you've been listening since the beginning of the podcast, my kind of journey with building my confidence and doing things that feel scary and trying to do them anyway. Going live anywhere has always been really a struggle for me, and something that's taken me quite a long time to kind of get into, in terms of just having even the confidence to just press that button, that go live button, and sitting there and like breathing and I can do this and, all of that. And it's taken me years. And so my mindset around going live on YouTube was, rather than scheduling it, telling everybody, inviting people so that I knew I had an audience, I actually thought, you know what, I'm a really small channel. Not many people are going to see this. This is my opportunity to practice. Actually, YouTube have now, I believe, put in a practice element part. So you can actually go to the live button. And I don't know where it is because I've not seen it, but I've just read that you can do it, that you can go and you can practice before you actually go live. So if it is something that you're interested in, you could look into that. But I didn't know that until after. And actually, I'm glad I just did it. So my thought process was, just go live. Don't really think about it. Don't worry about it. If no one turns up, that's great, because it's just a practice. If people do, you can see how you feel. And I was just painting kind of live, and I thought that might be quite fun for me to do and interesting for other people to see, because I think people do really enjoy watching Procreate, and it's something that people are interested in learning more about, but it feels quite scary and quite big to kind of learn. And I try to break that down, because actually Procreate, just like any other art material, is just a case of exploring and experimenting, just like you would with oil paints, for example. And so I have not put my anything on Do Not Disturb, which I probably should have done so that it doesn't ding. So yeah. So I really just leaned into the fact that it was kind of just a practice run. This was just me getting to grips with how a YouTube Live worked without worrying about who was going to see it and how it was going to feel and what I was going to do. And yeah, I was talking about Procreate, and people are quite interested in it, and it is a different tool, but it's not one to be kind of like, oh, it's so scary, I don't know how to use it. Just play around with it. Just literally go in, try all the different tools, and just have fun experimenting like you with other art materials. You might look up some YouTube tutorials to see how to get started, and then just experiment. So I am working on a free Procreate course, which goes through all the menus so that you can see what you can use and how you can use it. I was hoping that would be available in November, but obviously I had a long stretch of illness, which has set me back. So I don't know if that'll even be ready for the end of this year, but I will do my best, and I will just keep you updated on how it's going. But I do have a free Procreate masterclass, which you can get the link to in the notes if you haven't already. And it's just an hour, and it is a really lovely art journaling page in Procreate. So yeah, I figured, right, I'm just gonna have a go. So I kind of looked at how it all worked, and I just did it on my phone, and I just went live, and there was quite a few people coming on and off, and I would say a few, like 5, and people were commenting, and it was just so exciting. I was really enjoying it. I loved the fact that there wasn't just one person watching it on Facebook. There was quite a few people, and that they were commenting. And that kind of like spurred me on and gave me a little bit of confidence. And so yesterday I thought, right, I'm going to do it again. So I did. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. And it's something that I really want to continue to do. I loved just being kind of interactive with people, and people being able to ask me questions whilst I was working. And it also gave me that dedicated time to sit down and work, which I actually really enjoyed. So I did that, and I just wanted to share that with you because, I do talk about just showing up and taking some courage to do something that you want to do, but you feel scared to do it. And the reason that I talk about that is because that's where the growth happens. And I just think that when you hear from people that feel like that and do it anyway, they can come across, and I know people have said this to me all the time, you're so confident, you're such a natural, it's like the space you should be in, it's what you're good at. And I promise I do not feel that way. I feel like it's scary, like I'm going to do everything wrong, like I'm going to be rubbish, I'm not going to be able to think about what I want to say, that my words aren't going to come out properly, and all the things. So if I do come across as confident, then that is because once I get into flow, I think naturally the confidence does take over. And once I get started, I'm okay. But it's just that initial starting point where you just kind of freeze. So I just think it's really important to share that, because if you went on my YouTube channel and saw that I'd just gone live, you might think like it was just normal for me. It was nothing. And that isn't the case. So if there is something that you're considering doing, please reach out to me, tell me what it is. We can chat about it. And maybe I can help give you some tips on how to get started, because I really do feel that the more we can show up and the more we can be visible, the better it will be for ourselves and for our business, and just basically to help us grow, really. Because I'm growing so much doing this podcast, and I hope that doing the YouTube will also help me to grow as well as a person and as an artist. So that was kind of like my weekend. It wasn't really what I had planned to talk about today, but I felt that it was important to share that with you. So let's just kind of go back a few weeks. The last episode, well, I put like a little episode on last week just because I was really upset I hadn't been able to get on and chat to you, and I just wanted to kind of update you. So that was just kind of like a short one where I was walking. Probably was really difficult to hear because I was outside, the traffic was really loud, I was coughing, tried to edit that out, but there was one bit that I couldn't edit out, so I apologise if you did listen to that. Thank you for kind of like staying with me. So pretty much the whole of October was kind of a bit of a write-off. I was ill from the middle of September. My kids had their school holidays in the first few weeks of October, and we had a scheduled holiday, which was wonderful. We went to Corfu and it was absolutely beautiful. I was ill for all of it, which was disappointing, but not horrendous. And I still managed to enjoy myself, and we had a really lovely break. But it wasn't kind of the rest that I thought that I was going to get. So I'd decided that I was going to take, the last episode was obviously before the update one last week, was the one with Gabriel Lippert, which I think was 30. It was absolutely fantastic. I had his interview booked in and another one, which was the week before with Bury Art Museum. Those were both done while I wasn't well. And the recordings were done before, but the editing and all the work that goes into it was done whilst I wasn't well. And I think that was probably part of the problem, that I didn't have the time to just stop and rest, which is what I really needed to do. I just carried on. And I think that's probably why I was then a bit burnt out, and it just took me quite a long time to recover. So I had planned on taking the week of I think it was around the 8th of October, that week off the podcast. And then I was going to return after holiday. But when we got back, I was still poorly, and it took me a good couple of weeks after that to really get to the stage where I felt better. And I couldn't talk for a long period of time like this without coughing. So obviously that does not bode well for a podcast recording. So I just didn't have a choice. And sometimes that's the way it is. Sometimes our body just says no more. And we have to listen, because we actually get to the point where we don't have a choice. And I know there are a lot of people listening that can relate to keeping going when they know they shouldn't. And then eventually our bodies just say, that's it, you're not doing any more. And that's obviously what happened. My voice is getting hoarse now, having spoken for so long. I'm just taking some sips. So please excuse me. So, yeah, so it was really tough because I really wanted to show up for you. And it made me think, people that have a podcast with a co-host, that is so great because it means that if somebody's ill, the other one can take over. Or if they are able to record an episode, then the other person can maybe do the editing, they can do the publishing. But when you're hosting on your own and when you do all the work yourself, then there's just no option. And it was disappointing because since I started the podcast in April, have been really consistent. I've been able to put an episode out weekly. At the beginning, I was doing 2 weekly. I was doing a podcast recording on a Tuesday and an affirmation episode on a Thursday. I quickly realised that was a lot of work, and maybe we don't need weekly affirmation episodes. Actually, there are lots of affirmation episodes you can go back and listen to if those ones are something that you're interested in. And so then I decided to go to once a week, and that's been great. And obviously, the last few weeks, I've just had to take a few weeks off. So it might be that I do it weekly, and then in the school holidays, I take a break for a few weeks. And the other thing is that really I should be well organised and prepared, and I should have episodes kind of stacked so that they're ready to go. And therefore, when something like that happens, I'm able to still put something out, even though behind the scenes, I'm not necessarily 100% and I can't show up. But that's not the case. And I guess in a way, that's kind of relevant because that's what my podcast is about. It's about doing something maybe before you're ready, before you have got to the stage where you're organised, before you've got to the stage where you're confident. It's exactly what I was doing with the YouTube Live. I started the podcast before I knew what I was doing. I just wanted to get started. And if I'd have waited until everything was perfect, I still wouldn't have done it yet. So I guess the fact that I'm not prepared in advance with the episodes is probably a true reflection of the actual podcast that I'm putting out. And it stays true to me and to what I'm kind of sharing with you guys in terms of just being open, being completely honest and transparent, and just showing up in whatever way I can, whenever I can, which is why last week I just recorded something on my walk and I thought I just want to get something out just so that you know what the situation is. And I still was feeling like social media was just a little bit too much. And a lot of people don't see it anyway. Whereas I knew that my listeners would go on and then you'd know what was happening. So yeah, so that's kind of like where I'm at. So I just wanted to do like a little catch up so that you knew that it wasn't a case of me kind of dropping the ball or not wanting to do the podcast anymore or, anything like that. I really wanted to do it. And I was sad that I wasn't able to show up for you guys. It's sad that I wasn't able to talk to you. The connections that I've made since starting the podcast have just been amazing. And I absolutely love talking to you, connecting with you, finding out more about you, and being able to bring guests on and have conversations that are so inspiring and so interesting and knowledgeable, and learning all these new things. It's just incredible. And I feel so lucky not only to be able to bring those conversations to you, but to be able to partake in those conversations myself on a one-to-one with some incredible guests that we've had so far and more lined up. I mean, I've got a list already for 2026 of the most incredible guests, and I'm so excited and I just absolutely love it. So I was kind of thinking about consistency, and we talk about being consistent, and I always thought that being consistent was showing up at the same time, same day every week or twice a week, making sure I put my newsletter out once a week on the same day every week, putting a video out on the same day on YouTube every week, putting a podcast out on the same day on my podcast platform every week. And yes, that absolutely is consistency. But sometimes the idea of that is too much, and therefore it stops us from doing anything at all. And what I've learned is actually consistency is just keeping showing up. So it's not necessarily about being scheduled and having everything organized. That is definitely not my forte. I am not an organized person. I find it very difficult to plan ahead. I find it very difficult to keep to a schedule. I find it difficult to remember to do certain things at certain times. So whilst I try my best to get this podcast out at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday, sometimes it's just not possible. I'm recording this today on Monday. I'm hoping that I'm going to just not edit it. So I'm just going to put it straight out. So sorry about the whole YouTube thing earlier when I was trying to find out what the name of that thing was, but it's just easier not to edit it. Just put it straight out for you. That's one less thing for me to spend time doing. And hopefully that means that I will be able to schedule it for tomorrow morning. And that's great. But occasionally I put it out later in the day on a Tuesday. Sometimes it's been later in the week just because that's the way it is. And I've wanted to get it out rather than not get it out at all because I didn't get it out on a certain time and a certain date. So I think we just need to give ourselves maybe like a little bit of leeway and take the pressure off a little bit and just be a bit gentler. I think for me, it's really important to show up and to do these things, but to do it in my own way and not feel that the only way I can do it is if I do it this certain way. But it's not possible. So I'm trying to do it in a way that works for me. And sometimes that means that it's not consistent in terms of, like, I've tried so hard to choose a day to send my newsletter out and send it out once a week, but it just doesn't happen. I want to put the link to the podcast in my newsletter. Sometimes by the time I've recorded it, put it all, published it, written my show notes, put it on my website, put it on YouTube, done the thumbnail for YouTube, written the description in YouTube. And by the time I've done all of that, the thought of then writing a blog or writing a newsletter is like too much. So I end up not sending the newsletter, or it might not even be too much. It might just be like I've run out of time. Like I don't have the time because my whole week's been taken up with the podcast and I've not got time to even do any art. So I've got, a list of the things that I want to do. So for example, like last week, I wanted to send a newsletter out to my email list. I wanted to write a blog with just that little catch up so that people on my email list that might not have seen the podcast can be told, I have done what's going on for me and I have done this little catch up if you want to listen to it. But I ran out of time, so that didn't happen. So sometimes things, just don't go according to plan. My email does not go out once a week. I'd love it to. But right now, that can't happen for me. That's not to say in the future it won't. And that's not to say that I'm not being consistent. I still show up. I still send an email when I can. More often than not, it's more than once a month. When I started, it was less than once a month. So the consistency is there in terms of people will still hear from me and it's regular. It's just irregular in the fact that it's not at a consistent time each week, so that they expect to hear from me. And I don't think that's necessarily an issue. So I think, sometimes we just kind of need to reframe these thoughts and these ideas because they hold us back from doing things. And, I've missed a few weeks of the podcast and now I'm back. Does that mean that I've failed? No. Does that mean I shouldn't have started the podcast in the first place? Absolutely not. I know people that have had a really successful podcast and then just had to stop it because other commitments came in. And it's such a big commitment having a podcast, especially if you're, as I said, hosting it on your own. And so sometimes it just has to go. Does that mean they failed? Absolutely not. They had a fantastic podcast. Those episodes are still out there for people to listen to. And, I think that, yes, people like to know when it's coming out. They like, once they enjoy a podcast, they want to be able to listen to it regularly. And, I know that with Art Juice, if there was a week that was missed, I was gutted on a Tuesday morning that I couldn't listen. But then I'd just go and listen to an older episode. So I think, there's that as well. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk a bit about consistency because my idea of it has definitely changed. And I just think that over the years, I've continually shown up. I'm still going. I'm still showing up on social media a lot less, but I'm still showing up as much as I can. For me, that's the kind of marketing tool that I use. So it's probably the thing that maybe I do least, which probably it shouldn't be. But, once I've put the podcast out there and then obviously tried to email my email list, then I'm also looking at what content can I use to put out on social media to tell people about the podcast. So there's a lot of steps, and it's just not always possible to do all of them as much as I'd love to. The thing that is also in the pipeline for me is I would love to be producing a kind of freebie that goes alongside the podcast. So, for example, in the works, I've got an affirmation episode, and I'd love to put together a PDF pack with an affirmation colouring page, the affirmations from that podcast episode on a printable sheet, maybe a quiz or private podcast episode. There are lots of kind of little things in my mind that I would like to add, that I would like to give you kind of alongside the podcast episode. And that's something that I'd love to do. But at the moment, like I said, I didn't even get to send a newsletter out or put the episode out on social media. So to then have this extra thing that I want to add is like another thing to do. So that is something that I do really want to do, but it'll happen. And again, then there's that consistency there, because if I do it once, do I do it every episode, or, how often do you do that? Because then that's just like an extra piece of work that has to go alongside the podcast. So yeah, there's just kind of all these things. And if you have a creative brain, then you'll know that you're just constantly getting ideas and different things that you want to do. And you just can't always do all of them. So it's a case of kind of picking the thing that's the most important or the one that you enjoy the most. And for me at the moment, that is the podcast. So I just love it. I love chatting to you. I love kind of hearing from you when what I'm saying relates, when you really kind of resonate with what I'm saying and I get a message and people tell me that they think it's crazy but inspiring that I've just gone live randomly on Facebook and on YouTube. And I just think like it's not that big a deal, but to them it is. And then meanwhile, I'm looking at their incredible work and thinking like, wow, your work's so incredible. And, mine's nowhere near that sort of standard. So I think, we all kind of inspire each other in different ways. And I love that about connecting with you and my audience and my listeners and finding out more about you. It's just amazing. And it's just such an incredible connection that we then have, because you're listening to me and you're finding out more about me. And so you're messaging me and then we start a conversation and I find out more about you. And it's just fantastic. I just absolutely love it. I think, we see so little from the people that we follow, and we just have these perceptions of them. And actually, when we get to know people, we realise that pretty much most of us feel the same way. We're just showing up as best we can. And it might be that if somebody's further ahead than one thing than another, it's just because they've been doing it and practicing it for longer. So, for example, when I was doing my Procreate on the YouTube Live, somebody put a comment on to say that they were in awe of what I was doing, and that they've been trying to use Procreate, but they just can't, and they can't believe what I'm creating. And that's so lovely. But actually, if you saw my work from 3-4 years ago on Procreate, you'd see the massive leap that I've made just from practicing. And it's easy to look at something that somebody puts out and see it as them being so much better than you. But actually, you don't know their journey to getting to that point. And I think that's just a really important thing to kind of bear in mind when we're looking at things. So, sorry, this is dinging and I have put it on Do Not Disturb, but it just seems to still be dinging. So I apologise for that. So that's kind of where things are at. And what else I wanted to tell you about my artwork and that kind of side of things. So a couple of things that I wanted to talk to you about. One, I was really excited to put my work in for the Bury Art Museum open call, which I spoke to Sarah and Katie from Bury Art Museum a few weeks ago, episode 29, and they mentioned that they were having their second ever open call. I'd missed the first one because I'd been away, so I hadn't been able to bring my artwork down for it. So I decided to enter this open call. I was really excited. I was really feeling quite good about the work that I put in. I was sure that at least one piece would get chosen. And unfortunately, none of my work got chosen. And I was really, really disappointed, obviously, understandably. It was the first one. I've submitted to a couple of things before and not been successful. But this was like my proper first open call one. And there were a lot of local artists that I know that got their work accepted. Like, pretty much one piece, but some people got two. And I think that can be really hard when you're seeing people get in and you haven't, and it's hard kind of not to take it personally. And I was obviously disappointed, but I'm glad that I was able to kind of take the courage to actually put my work in, because maybe like a year ago, I wouldn't have done. I just kind of would have been too scared, or I wouldn't have thought I was good enough. So I am happy and proud of myself that I actually put myself out there. And I guess that's just kind of part of the artist's journey. If you want to go to art fairs, if you want to apply to galleries, if you want to apply to open calls, if you want to submit your work for certain projects, then there's always that chance that it's going to be rejected and you're going to feel disheartened. I was reading a post in Connected Artist Club, which Alice Sheridan runs this morning actually, somebody who had, because everyone's very open about their experiences, somebody that had done an art fair and they'd done it before and they'd done really well, but this year, for whatever reason, they didn't have a great successful time in terms of selling. And art fairs can be really expensive. And so they were just talking about maybe what they could do differently. And it's just so important that we kind of share those ups and downs, because, it was the same art fair that she'd done before where she'd been successful. So it's not her work and it's not the art fair. It's just potentially the fact that maybe people aren't buying at the moment, or, there could be so many different reasons we don't know. And I'm not going to speculate because I haven't even asked this person if I can talk about them. It's just come to my head when I'm discussing this. But I just like to kind of share, like I said at the beginning, it can be, yes, I want this podcast to be positive, but it can still be uplifting and inspiring when we hear from people that haven't been successful in the things that they've tried, because I tried, and that's the main thing. And I will continue to try. I did another submission this morning for another art gallery. And again, maybe nothing gets accepted, and that's absolutely fine. I'm actually talking to that gallery owner. That podcast episode will be out either next week or the week after, depending on how much time I have to get the episode edited and out. But that's going to be really interesting to hear from a gallery side of point of view of how they look at the artist's work and what she kind of considers when she's deciding. So that will be really interesting for us to hear. But yeah, I just think, it's not going to stop me putting my work in. I would like to start putting myself out there in that way. Maybe my artwork's not good enough yet, and that's absolutely fine. I have had people tell me over the years that it is, and I've not felt that it is at the right standard. But I feel more confident now, and therefore I think that's the first step. So even if my artwork's not quite ready, I'm ready. And I think that's really good that I'm ready to kind of put myself out there to try. And actually, you can learn quite a lot, because you can learn about, it'll be interesting to see if anything does get accepted with this one. Maybe I can try other ones. Maybe it's the actual establishment. They're looking for something different. Maybe it's the judges. They're looking for something specific. So, you might put the same piece of artwork in. So let's say, obviously you won't put it in at the same time, but let's say over, a period or whatever, it gets rejected from one. So you try it in another, and it might get accepted at another one because they have a different kind of theme or a different view on what exhibition they want to put together. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to share that, because obviously I was disappointed and I did take it personally, because it's very hard not to. But then, I was able to kind of think about it a little bit more rationally after the initial disappointment, and kind of just realised that actually, my work is quite expressive, it's quite different, and potentially it just wasn't the right fit, or they just didn't like it. And you know what? That's absolutely fine. It's not to say that it will never get accepted to anything and nobody will like it. So I think, I just kind of wanted to share that. And especially for people listening that are kind of maybe even local that also put their work in, I think, if we don't share, if you only see the people that got in, you think you're the only one. And that can also be really upsetting. So it's just nice to hear from people who, didn't get in, and they can share that experience as well. So I really wanted to share that with you. I will tell you when I'm doing things, and I think I did mention at the end of last week that I was putting my work in. I was really excited. So it's important to kind of follow that up and let you know kind of what's happened. So so I got a disappointing email that said none of your artwork has been selected. And it's not what I was expecting. So maybe I should have had lower expectations. But hey ho, we move on and we go on to the next thing. And it's all part of the journey. So we just got to try these things, take risks, be courageous, and just see what happens. It's all good learning. And so the other thing that I have done, which I wanted to share with you, is that I did take Gabriel Lipper's figure drawing class. So if you watched that episode or listened to that episode, you would have heard that I said that Gabriel had convinced me to take his figure drawing class. My work is, I really enjoy figure drawing. It's something that has been part of my process for a long time. And it was a 2-week course. I'm kind of I watched everything, and then now I'm going back through it and applying it. And I've only really got to kind of the first kind of stages. And I think I'm on my second piece. Interestingly, I've applied some of what I've learned to an acrylic painting, and it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. I'm just not great with acrylics at all. And I find that really interesting. But what I'm going to do, I started working in Procreate and I absolutely love it. I'm just amazed by what I'm creating. It's so different. I can't believe within just a couple of weeks of doing his course, how much my work's changed and how much I've learned. And I just know that's going to get even better because it's only been a few weeks and I've only been able to kind of like put in practice a tiny bit of his teaching. So the more I watch and the more I practice, I think, that's going to improve even more. I'm really enjoying it and I love what I'm creating in Procreate. And I'm hoping that when I take that back to the paint, some of what I'm learning, and I don't know why I find it easier to put it into practice with Procreate at all, but what I'm creating in there, I love. And what I was creating with the acrylic paint, I don't know. I just can't. I think it's because I like to blend maybe. So I think I'm going to try oils. I have got some oils and I did some oil paintings a couple of years ago and I really enjoyed them, much preferred them to acrylic. So I think maybe that's my medium. And I think this has kind of helped me to learn that. So I'm going to maybe try and go back to the oils and see if I can apply what I'm learning from Procreate into that. But I will share the one acrylic painting that I've tried. And if I do any more, I'll share them. I haven't yet, but I'll pop that onto my Instagram so that you can see it. And it'll be interesting to see the difference between Procreate ones and the acrylic paint ones. But at the moment, I'm just really enjoying it. And if you are interested in keeping up with what I'm doing on that side of things, then do go check out my YouTube channel because that's where I'm sharing most of it. And I will try and do some updates on Instagram as well. But YouTube is probably the best place for now to be finding out about that. And I think we are running on to 50 minutes now, which is very long for me to just talk at you. And hopefully it's not been too boring. But it's been really nice to chat and kind of update you on everything that's been going on over the past few weeks. And I'm really excited to be back and to be sharing more exciting episodes with you. The next few I've got coming out, I've got a couple of guests coming on, which I'm really excited about and you'll really enjoy. And like I said, I'll get the affirmation episode done as well. Hopefully towards the end of the week that'll be out, because I think it'll be a really lovely, nourishing episode for us all to just be able to sit and have a little bit of quiet time with some gentle affirmations and some relaxing music. So I will just keep an eye out for when that one comes out. Yeah, so thank you so much for listening. I really hope that you've enjoyed this episode, maybe taken something away from it. Do come and chat to me in the comments. Leave me a review. Follow me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It really does make a huge difference. And if you can leave a review, even just one sentence, it makes a huge difference. I really appreciate it. So please do that. And you can support the podcast. So everything that I do, obviously, I do it for free. So if you do want to, you can go to Buy Me a Coffee /Art by Liz Ross, and you can donate just one coffee, £3. And that does really help just cover my costs for the podcast. So I appreciate every single one. If you leave a comment then and your Instagram handle, then I can also give you a shout out and I will pop over to Instagram and say thank you personally. So please do consider doing that if you're enjoying the content, because it really does help me and I appreciate it so much. So thank you so much for listening and for being here with me. I am so glad to be back after such a long time away, and hopefully I will be able to continue to put regular episodes out again now up until the end of the year, and I will see you soon. So thank you for being here, and I can't remember what my outro is, so I'm just going to say thank you, and I will see you in the next episode. Have a great day, everyone.